The Champions League playoff stage is underway and 16 teams are set to battle it out for a spot in the knockout rounds. Hello and welcome back to INMR, where in today's podcast I'm going to be previewing the round of 16 playoff game between Club Brugge and Atalanta. For all the pre-match tactics, facts and team news, keep watching. Before I start though, here's a reminder of why I'm covering this game and how you can help me earn access to a Premier League press box. So some of you may know I am a student journalist. Currently at my university there is a competition where you can win press box tickets to the Brighton vs Fulham match in March. The way to win those is that we'll be doing a live blog on February the 12th, and it's a live blog for the Club Brugge vs Atalanta game. But by people interacting, it increases my chances of being able to get those press box tickets. And in return for you, that means I can bring you much better matchday content for the Albion. There's loads of benefits this would have for both my experience and my ability to give you better Brighton content. Wednesday the 12th of February. But yeah, that's the plan, so if you can help out it'd be very much appreciated. First things first, let's take a look at both teams' current form. So as you can see, Club Brugge were doing really well. They went on a 20-match unbeaten run, but with that 3-1 loss against City on match day 8, they did have a little bit of a shaky spell, losing the game after that and then drawing, but they are back on track now with a recent 1-0 win. It's a very similar story for Atalanta, who were doing quite well, dropped points against Barca on match day 8, which meant they didn't go through, and then again they had a bit of a shaky spell themselves, drawing to Torino and losing to Bologna, but they too have bounced back with a 5-0 win against Hellas Verona in the recent match day in the Serie A. Club Brugge and Atalanta meet for the first time in their history for this Champions League match, making it the only tie in the round that hasn't been played before. And the winner of these two legs will face either Lille or Aston Villa in the round of 16. Whilst Atalanta have only faced a Belgian side twice in their history, Club Brugge are taking on an Italian team for the third time this season. Atalanta finished the league phase in 9th with 15 points, whilst Club Brugge finished on 11 points, just sneaking in that final qualifying spot. Club Brugge first reached the knockout stages of the Champions League in the 2022-23 season, but they were eliminated by Benfica. This time round it's looking fairly unlikely, as their record against Italian teams is not good at all. They've won just 5 of their 24 matches against Serie A opposition, with their last victory coming in 2003 against AC Milan. This means they're currently on a 15-game winless run against Serie A opposition. For Atalanta, they've only faced one Belgian side, playing 2 matches against Mechelen in 1987. They lost both those legs. But recently they've been in excellent form. Obviously they won the Europa League at the end of last season. They finished 4th in the Serie A, which was their 5th top 4 finish in 8 years. And as I mentioned about their form earlier, they ended that 3-game winless run with a massive 5-0 win over Hellas Verona. There are some connections between the two teams player-wise. Charles de Ketelaere came through Bruges' academy and won 3 league titles before moving to AC Milan in 2022. Odilon Kossounou also played for Bruges and won 2 league titles during his time at the club. In terms of team news, at the time of filming, the press conferences haven't been carried out yet, but the latest on the players is that Club Brugge have no players out or a doubt. However, Vetlesen, Saiz and Skores could all miss the next game if they're booked tonight. For Atalanta, they're struggling a lot more injury-wise. They've been hit big time. They've got 5 players out and 2 are doubt, so that's 7 players potentially missing. Kossounou, Lookman, Maldini, Scalvini and Scamacca are all definitely out with various injuries. Obviously Ademola Lookman being the big one there. He scored the hat-trick in the Europa League final and has been really key for Atalanta since joining. And the 2 players in doubt are Sead Kolasinac and Karnasetchi, both with thigh problems, so we'll have to see what happens with those 2 there. And the only player that could miss the next match if booked is Ederson. Moving on to the 2 sides' tactical approaches. If you watched the match previews I did last season for all of the Brighton Europa League games, you'll know that this is sort of the structure we like to take, see how the 2 teams like to set up tactically to understand what we can expect from the game. So for Club Brugge, Nicky Hayan sets up in a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, which shifts to a 4-1-4-1 when defending. Brugge play with width, keeping the wingers wide and making the fullbacks push forward. They mix possession play in deeper areas with direct attacks in the final third, and they create overloads in those wide areas to isolate defenders and progress the ball. Their chance creation is heavily focused on crosses and cutbacks, so you can expect them to use the flanks. When Club Brugge have the ball, it's going to be a lot of defending for Atalanta in those wide areas. In terms of their build-up play, the team plays horizontally and patiently in deeper areas before looking to progress, as I mentioned, and midfielder Rafael Onyedika is key to that system. He drops deep to support the back line and then link play to the forward line. Bruges alternate between short build-up and long balls from the goalkeeper or centre-backs, especially when under pressure. Defensively, Heian plays quite a deep defensive line and they sit in a compact 4-1-4-1 out of possession. Bruges implement a narrow and passive defensive system, closing down central passing lanes and forcing the opposition out wide. So that is Bruges' tactical approach. In terms of Atalanta, they set up in a 3-4-1-2, which can shift into a 3-5-2 when attacking or a 5-3-2 when out of possession. Gasperini's system is heavily focused on positional play and fluidity. Atalanta aim to dominate possession and create numerical overloads, especially in the first phase of the build-up. The back three spread wide, with one of them stepping into midfield to link the play, and the central midfielders split, allowing the wing-backs to push high and create width. This structure forces opponents to make defensive choices and opens the passing lanes centrally. The attacking midfielder often drops deep to form triangles and link play, shifting across the pitch to create overloads on whatever side the ball is on. And in the final third, Atalanta's play is based on quick positional rotations with central combinations leading to wide switches. And this is where wing-backs can deliver crosses or cutbacks. So both sides like to utilise the wings when attacking, so a lot of the game is going to be played out wide. Because of that, it means that the game will probably be won in the centre, because it's going to depend who can win those midfield battles to quickly get it out wide to capitalise on the opponent's slow reactions. In terms of their build-up, Atalanta play out the back with composure, with their goalkeeper and defenders spreading wide to create space. The number 10 often drops deep, helping link play and create another passing option. Passing triangles are a key feature in Gasperini's setup, especially between centre-backs, full-backs and midfielders, to help ensure smooth transitions through the thirds. Gasperini encourages his midfielders to rotate positions, unsettling the opposition's space and creating gaps. This is what I mean by the game's going to be won and lost in midfield, because although they both like to play in the wings, it's going to be those rotations centrally to unsettle the other team to then get it out wide. Defensively, Atalanta are very aggressive. Their pressing system is initiated by their forwards, forcing oppositions to play long. The pressing system is man-orientated, with midfielders sticking close to their direct opponents to limit the passing options. If the high press is bypassed, this is when Atalanta change into their 5-3-2 formation. It's a compact mid-block focused on protecting the central areas. Defenders are proactive, stepping out aggressively to challenge the passes made in midfield. In this 5-3-2 setup, all three midfielders drop back to reinforce a strong defensive block, ensuring numerical superiorities in the key areas. So that is both teams' tactics. As you can see, very different in terms of formations, but actually the general approach is very similar, so it's going to be very interesting to see how they're going to counter each other, because the actual ideas are very similar. They both like to play wide, their build-up is very patient. The only thing that is different is the defensive setup, where obviously Club Brugge like to sit back a lot, whereas Atalanta only do it if they have to. So tactically, it's going to be very interesting to watch. But finally, we're going to go on to the players to watch, one for each side, starting off with Club Brugge, and I've gone for Hans Vanaken. Bruges' captain always leads by example and gives you at least a 7 out of 10 every game, and he's provided his side with some vital moments already in the Champions League. I mean, Bruges got through by the skin of their teeth, and his goal against Aston Villa earlier on in the match days won them the game, so those 3 points has seen them progress to this stage. Without his composure from the spot, Club Brugge likely wouldn't even be in this position to potentially go through to the round of 16. This season in the league, he's got 7 goals and 8 assists, and outperforming his XG and XA. He's created 42 chances and has a passing accuracy of 89%. With Atalanta being an aggressive pressing side, his composure in midfield would be key for Bruges in terms of controlling the game and potentially causing an upset. As I mentioned earlier, Atalanta often do go man-for-man out of possession, but Vanaken ranks in the top 11% for successful dribbles in the league this season and has registered the most touches. So fortunately for Bruges, they've got that experienced head in the middle who can potentially escape that press with his technical ability. For Atalanta, there's only one player you can really go for, and that is Matteo Retegui. He's hit the ground running in some style since joining Atalanta in the summer. He scored 20 goals in 22 Serie A appearances and puts him in first position for the Golden Boot race. What makes that tally even more impressive is that his XG this season is just 11.6, so he is incredibly clinical in front of goal. Club Brugge will need to put a lot of focus on keeping him at bay, not just in terms of his goal scoring but also his link-up play. Retegui ranks in the top 13% of Serie A strikers this season for chances created with 22, so Brugge will need to make sure they're quick to dispossess him to prevent him from turning and shooting or even laying it off to a teammate. Retegui scored 4 goals in his last match against Hellas Verona as Atalanta won 5-0, so for Brugge there really isn't a worse time to come up against the in-form Italian. So that is everything you need to know before the Club Brugge versus Atalanta match, but before I go, here's a final reminder of the live blog coming up on Wednesday night. Don't forget to check it out. When the final whistle goes, there will be a link posted for you to go and check it out. Vote for your man of the match. There's loads of different stuff to do on there, and remember, every interaction counts, so keep an eye out and get involved when it's time. That is where I'm going to end today's podcast, but there are plenty of others you can go and listen to. For more content, be sure to check out my website, that's inmrfootball.co.uk, and if that's not enough, INMR is also on X and Instagram, so you can follow me on both of those platforms for even more daily football content. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.